Good morning. It's April 10th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the latest developments on the leaking of secret U.S. military documents. A batch of leaked, apparently classified U.S. documents is becoming a big headache for American authorities, with the secret files containing information about some of its closest allies. The Pentagon has requested that the Justice Department launch an investigation. China pushes on with the final day of its 3 days of military drills around Taiwan in a show of protest against the Taiwanese president's visit to Washington last week. And today, Beijing is holding live fire drills. Tottenham Hotspur's Son Heung-min has hit 100 goals in the Premier League, making himself the first Asian player to reach the milestone. We begin in the United States and the alarming leaks of classified military documents that contain information about Russia's invasion of Ukraine and also its key allies. Washington says it's currently looking into the matter and will launch investigations. Our Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
Regarding the dozens of highly classified, recently leaked military documents, the U.S. says it's reviewing the matter. That's according to the Pentagon on Sunday in a written interview with South Korea's Yonhap news agency. The department said it was looking into the leak and that it has asked the Justice Department to launch an investigation. Last Friday, a new batch of photos of wrinkled documents apparently originating from the Pentagon was shared online. They revealed information seemingly obtained by U.S. spy agencies on a wide range of matters, including Russia's invasion of Ukraine and also info on key allies like South Korea and Israel, which could hurt diplomatic ties. Citing the leaked documents, the New York Times detailed a conversation between then-President Yoon Secretary for Foreign Affairs and his national security advisor that the government was, quote, mirrored in concerns that the U.S. would not be the end user if South Korea were to comply with a U.S. request for ammunition. In February, the U.S. had reportedly inquired about purchasing ammunition from South Korea, but the administration was worried about supplies reaching Ukraine and going against its long-standing policy of not supplying weapons to countries at war. The Times noted that details of the discussion between top advisors of South Korea's president were based on signals intelligence, a term used by spy agencies to describe intercepted communications from phone calls to electronic messages. The papers also contain plans by Russian mercenaries, the Wagner Group, to operate in Africa, and how the Israeli Foreign Intelligence Agency Mossad had encouraged its staff and members of the public to participate in the anti-government protests that took place across the country in March. According to CNN, U.S. officials say the documents are real. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
China began 3 days of military exercises over the weekend around the island of Taiwan in response to Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's visit to the U.S. While Washington warns China not to overreact, Beijing will reportedly be using live ammunition in Monday's exercises. Our Lee Seung-ja has more.
Following Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's visit to the U.S., where she held talks with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, China began 3 days of military drills around Taiwan on Saturday. According to the Taiwanese Armed Forces on Sunday, it spotted 70 Chinese aircraft, including Su-30 fighters and H-6 bombers, as well as 11 ships around the island. A simulated precision strike drill was conducted against key targets in those areas. In response, Taiwan deployed several fighter jets, as well as the Coast Guard, ramping up its full military readiness. It's been also reported that the U.S. deployed its Boeing P-8 Poseidon, an American maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft, capable of detecting military activity in the Taiwan Air Defense Identification Zone. Washington had already warned Beijing against overreacting to the recent visit by President Tsai to the U.S., adding that it would closely watch China's actions. Taiwan's defense ministry accused China of intentionally creating tension in the Taiwan Strait while negatively affecting international security and economic development. Despite this, China has made it clear that it will continue to ramp up pressure on Taiwan as it's set to continue its military drill on Monday using live ammunition. Watchers say the latest response from Beijing will most certainly raise tensions not only between China and Taiwan, but with the U.S. as well. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Despite inflation starting to slow, price increases in South Korea have spread to more items. Now, there's interest in what this could mean for the Bank of Korea's rate decision set for tomorrow. Our Lee Kyung-eun reports.
Inflation in South Korea remains stubborn, but appears to be slowing, coming at 4.2% in March, the smallest on-year jump in a year.
Consumer prices have been seemingly cooling down since the second half of last year and are likely to stabilize further throughout this year.
That's raising some anticipation of an interest rate freeze when the Bank of Korea makes its decision on Tuesday.
The US may slow down rate hikes as the labor market stabilizes. That's easing pressure on the BOK in terms of the exchange rate, and perhaps means it will make its rate decision based on the domestic situation.
However, with the recent announcement by OPEC Plus to cut production, oil prices are seemingly rebounding, possibly affecting prices in general. And even with that, oil prices potentially surging, items are getting more expensive across the board. The price pressures, which initially began with fuel and food, have been seen in 86% of 458 items last month, most notably in the service sector, where restaurant prices jumped 7.4% in March, a significantly high number compared to the overall inflation of 4.2% in that month. With this, core inflation, which excludes the price changes in the volatile food and energy sectors, remained relatively heated at 4.8%. Against the backdrop of these mixed inflation figures, eyes are on the Bank of Korea's upcoming decision. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
South Korea's ruling People Power Party, the government, and officials from the presidential office met at the prime minister's residence in Seoul on Sunday. There, they decided to present the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea with a middle ground proposal over the possible legislation of the Nursing Act. Now, the Nursing Act refers to a set of proposed laws that stipulates the roles and duties of licensed nurses separately from the Medical Service Act. It's a move opposed by doctors' groups who fear it will lead to confusion in public health care. Meanwhile, in Sunday's meeting, officials also agreed to expand the so-called 1,001, or about 75 US cents, breakfast program to all universities that seek it. President Yoon has pledged to create a society that warmly embraces underprivileged citizens through the practice of love. Attending an Easter worship service at a church in central Seoul, Yoon said the resurrection of Jesus Christ is a message that people can be saved from eternal death and be born again by putting love into action. He said the Christian love of spirit and solidarity looks to protect the freedom of global citizens, and that the spirit of South Korea's constitution, based on a liberal democracy, is enshrined in the Bible. Going forward, he said the spirit of constitution must be defended so that lies and corruption cannot threaten liberal democracy. Things have not been so easy here on the Korean Peninsula over the weekend. North Korea claims to have carried out another test of an underwater nuclear-capable attack drone last week. And also in the meantime, the regime has not picked up military hotline calls from the south since Friday. For more on this, we turn to Mr. Bruce Bennett from Rand Corporation. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. There is a speculation that the regime's tactical weapons, including the latest Hail-1 drone, are mock-ups. Now, what's your point of view?
The underwater drone, as described by some of the analysts, travels something like about an 8-knot speed. That's really slow. It's not going to chase down surface ships or things like that and destroy them the way Kim is claimed. Similarly, the nuclear weapons that he recently showed, those weapons, if he were in the room, those weapons have enough high explosive to totally destroy that room, even if they don't go off with nuclear power. So unlikely that he really went into a room with that much really sensitive high explosive. Not only is it a threat, but it's also a case where he has to worry about if all of his people are really reliable.
Right. If these tactical weapons are mock-ups, then why do you think the North is showing off such tests? Because according to 38 North over the weekend, the North's unmanned underwater vehicle system offers very little to beef up its military capabilities. So then why?
I think Kim is trying to deal with the problem he faces. He's anxious to break the U.S.-South Korea alliance. He wants to cause it to come an end. And so what he's been doing is ramping up his provocations, hoping that somehow South Korea and the U.S. will back down. Ironically, that has caused the U.S. and South Korea to be closer than ever. In many ways, he is the supporter of the closeness of the alliance. And I'm sure his people will be absolutely distressed as they learn about that. So at this point, he's got to divert attention. He's got to try to cause people to think, well, he's got more cards up his sleeve. He's got more ability to pose more threats and divert attention. And so he's trying with some things which appear to be pretty weak.
So very much attention-seeking at the moment. Now,
very much.
On top of those newest tactical weapons, Pyongyang hasn't responded to regular morning and afternoon calls between the two Koreas that they hold every day. That hasn't happened since last Friday. Now, why do you think the reason for this?
I think Kim is trying to put pressure on South Korea and on the United States. He's putting pressure with theoretical new capabilities, which look like they're mock-ups. He's putting pressure on us to say, well, we're not going to make it easy for you if some kind of provocation occurs for you to contact us. He's trying to get South Korea and the U.S. to compromise and to give him something so that he can have a great victory to show the North Korean people and especially the North Korean military. He's not getting it.
Right.
And so he's trying.
Right. And also, this week is supposed to be a very dear to a lot of people in North Korea because the regime is set to celebrate the birthday of the founding leader Kim Il-sung, known as the Day of the Sun, this weekend. Now, what can we expect from the North celebrating or commemorating the anniversary?
Well, as I say, Kim is looking weak. And what he's tried to do in the past when he's looked weak is to demonstrate some new strength. That could mean he could do something like the full-range ICBM test he's threatened about. But you have to look at that more closely because he can't send a ballistic missile 11,000 kilometers toward the United States across the North Pacific. There's not that much room. If he wants to demonstrate full range, he's actually got to send it off of Central America or off of South America. That would be a very different approach, but it's something he could do. He could also do the 7th nuclear test. Still, in either case, it may be the situation that he lacks those capabilities, that he actually is not ready with a 7th nuclear test.
Right. We'll keep a close eye on the North's moves. Thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
South Korea national football team captain and Tottenham Hotspur forward Son Heung-min scored his 100th English Premier League goal on Saturday, becoming the first Asian player in the EPL to reach the century mark. His latest milestone came during Saturday's 2-1 win over Brighton and Hove Albion at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. It was his 7th league goal of the season and 11th in all competitions. Spurs are sitting in 5th place in the league, 1 spot shy of the coveted Champions League qualification position with 8 games to play. Son joined Tottenham in 2015 and has played for his club a total of 260 times. Have you ever left something on the subway and then panicked? Well, you might be surprised to find out what kinds of things get lost on the trains. Here in Korea, getting your belongings back is a lot easier than you think. Our Kim Jung-sil has the story.
This is a lost and found center for subway lines number 3 and 4 here in central Seoul. Some items get picked up quite quickly. Some have been here since last year. There's no name tag, no address, nothing to help find out who the owner is.
More than 500 to 600 items arrive every month here at Chungmuro Lost and Found Center. And some of the items here are quite unexpected. Like this celadon, for example, was found at a women's bathroom inside the station last October and is still waiting to be picked up.
It's not just the celadon that's unusual. We asked the manager about some of the more surprising items she's found.
We get shocked when we get mannequin heads. Sometimes there are even false teeth for senior citizens.
There are also guitars, violins, and fire extinguishers. If no one claims these items after 6 months, they then get taken to social work institutes to be used for people in need. Recently, there's been a surge in foreigners who visit this center.
Recently, a Japanese tourist came to look for his watch. We had that watch at the center. We asked him if he has any photos of the watch, and he did, so we returned it to him.
More than 2,400 thank you letters were sent to Seoul Metro last year by people who had found their lost valuables. An exchange student from the Netherlands said she knows someone who had a lucky escape.
My friend lost her phone in the subway, and someone brought it to the lost and found, so she got her phone again. I think it was really a good thing, because I think back home in the Netherlands, that would not happen. Someone would have taken the phone.
Lost and found centers in South Korea upload daily findings online on the day that they arrive. Anyone missing their belongings can visit lost112.go.kr and see if their belongings are there. The Lost and Found Center manager said it really helps if passengers can remember the subway car number they've been traveling on, which is written on the platform floor. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Researchers here in Korea are reaffirming the health benefits of edible insects as great sources of dietary protein that is fundamental to overall muscle strength, especially for the elderly. Our Yoon explains.
When we see elderly people spending their free time doing a variety of exercises, we admire their physical activeness and fitness. But for them, there may be some sadness that their bodies aren't the same as they used to be.
There was a time when I used to jump around, but now I walk like an old man.
The process of muscle weakening as a part of aging is called sarcopenia. But it has become a global trend to consider muscle atrophy as more of a disease than just a sign of aging. And diseases call for treatment. While there isn't a treatment for sarcopenia, local researchers have found that mealworm extract enhances muscle differentiation and alleviates muscle loss. Mealworm extract was applied to the muscle cells of laboratory mice. Compared to muscle cells that were not treated, results showed an enhancement of 60% in myogenin, a protein that is expressed early in skeletal muscle differentiation. The experiment also showed changes in the number of genes that influence muscle atrophy, collectively referred to as atrogenes. The muscle cells treated with mealworm extract showed a decrease of these proteins by 36%.
The scientific proof that these mealworms help alleviate muscle atrophy is significant because it allows the expansion of the use of edible insects as a medicinal additive.
The latest research finding was also published in the International Journal of Scientific Studies, Life. And the Rural Development Administration plans to further its findings by expanding clinical research into the use of edible insects. Once looked at with disgust, more edible insects backed by scientific findings are becoming recognized as health supplements. Yoon, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in the French city of Marseille, where at least 8 people are missing after 2 buildings collapsed. The buildings came down after an explosion on Sunday morning, local time, which authorities say was likely caused by a gas leak. The explosion also partly damaged a 3rd building nearby. Now, 5 were injured in the collapse, and almost 200 people in the vicinity have been evacuated. Initial rescue efforts were hampered by dust and heat from the fire, which took hours to extinguish. Officials say that fatalities among those missing are likely. The disaster marks the 2nd time in 5 years that a building has collapsed in the port city. In November 2018, 8 people were killed when 2 houses collapsed due to structural issues. Turning to the French Alps now, where an avalanche on Sunday killed 4 people and injured 9. Search teams are looking for 2 people still missing. Among the dead were 2 mountain guides overseeing a group of people thought to be backcountry skiing at a time when the risk level was reasonable. The avalanche near Mont Blanc spanned an area of 1 kilometer by 500 meters. It started when a slab of snow fell from the top of a mountain. Officials have not ruled out the chance of a second avalanche. Meanwhile, golf legend Tiger Woods has withdrawn from this year's Masters over a foot injury. The 5-time Masters champion said on social media on Sunday local time that he is withdrawing due to pain in his heel. The injury is believed to be linked to a 2021 car crash that severely injured his right leg and required multiple surgeries. The 47-year-old had reached the 3rd round, making the cut for a record-equaling 23rd time. The Masters at Augusta National Golf Club in the U.S. state of Georgia has seen delays this year due to poor weather. Spain's John Ram won the tournament by 4 shots. And finally, animals at London Zoo joined in the Easter festivities as they were handed special Easter egg treats from their handlers last week. The animals were put on a traditional Easter egg hunt with eggs hidden in their enclosures. Zookeepers said it served as a way for the animals to practice their natural foraging behaviors that are normally done in the wild. Now, rare Sumatran tigers, meerkats and squirrel monkeys were among the animals taking part in the hunt. The eggs were made of cardboard and filled with treats ranging from moss and crickets to sweet potato, sweet corn and peas.
Good morning. It looks to be a pleasant spring day nationwide with a few things to be in mind of. First, big temperature differences. Morning temperatures are about 3 degrees higher than the same time yesterday, starting out at about 6 degrees Celsius here in the capital. Then, highs will climb near 20 degrees, making a temperature gaps of more than 10 degrees Celsius today. Meanwhile, East Coast regions, Daegu and Ulsan are under dry weather advisory again. And making matters worse, wind is going to pick up in the East Coast regions and West Coast from the afternoon, with stronger wind in the forecast tomorrow. Afternoon highs will be 1 to 3 degrees higher than Sunday. Seoul topping out at 19 degrees Celsius, Daegu at 22 degrees this afternoon. Bright skies nationwide with safe air quality level. Then rain is in the forecast tomorrow, starting from the capital in the morning, spreading nationwide by the afternoon. Then one more round of rain is possible at the end of the week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. Do stay with us for more updates throughout the day. Thanks for watching.